Dear beloved child of God, for 12 long hours, the Lord has been trying to reach your heart, striving to send you a message of great significance, one that carries profound weight, divine grace, and eternal purpose. This is not a message to be taken lightly or ignored, nor is it something you should delay in receiving. The message you are about to hear may break your heart, but it will also open your soul to God's deep healing grace and the everlasting love of Christ. What you are about to read is about life, love, loss, and God's perfect plan for your life. It is about understanding that every moment, every joy, every struggle, every triumph, and every pain is woven into God's grand design for you. This message will touch the very core of your being. It will offer healing to your deepest wounds, and it will reveal truths that may challenge your understanding. It is a message of hope, transformation, and divine purpose. This message is linked to someone you loved dearly, someone whose soul now rests in the arms of God in heaven. In their final moments on earth, before they passed from this life into eternity, they made one last prayer, a wish to God on your behalf. A final request that not only speaks of their deep love for you, but also reveals God's profound and life-altering answer. This is their last wish for you, and God's answer, though it may be painful to hear, holds a message of profound healing, purpose, and grace. Picture, for a moment, the moment when someone who loved you more than words can describe stood before God, standing on the threshold of eternity. This person, whether it was your parent, a sibling, a dear friend, or someone who mentored you, had one final thought on their mind, one last prayer, one last request, as they stood before God in heaven. And that prayer, the last wish they made in their final moments, was about you. Their love for you was so deep, so vast, that even in their last breath, their concern was not for themselves, but for you. They were not thinking about their own salvation or their own needs. They were thinking of you, your heart, your soul, your journey, your future. Their love for you was not limited to this life. It was a love that reached across time, that transcended the boundaries of this earthly existence. And it was a love that mirrored the love of Christ himself. As they stood at the gates of eternity, their last request to God was a prayer for you. This was not just a wish for your well-being in the here and now, but a prayer that God would intervene in your life, that he would send healing, protection, and guidance. It was a request for divine intervention to shape the course of your life in a way that would lead you closer to God's purpose and plan. They loved you with an unshakable love, one that reflected the love of Christ, a love that never ends, even beyond death. And as their spirit rose to meet God, Their final request was simple but powerful. Lord, I have loved them all my life. Please, in your mercy, do not let them walk this road alone. Reach out to them, hold them when I can no longer be there, heal them where I could not, and show them the way to your light. Bring them peace and protect their soul. This prayer, this last wish, was born out of an immense love, a love so great that it transcended death itself. Their love for you was an eternal love, one that would not fade away with their passing. And in this final act of love, they placed their deepest hope in God's hands, trusting that God alone could provide the help and healing that you needed. But what exactly did this person see in you that caused them to make such a heartfelt prayer to God? Perhaps they saw the struggles you have been quietly facing, battles you have fought in the silence of your heart. Perhaps they saw the pain you have been hiding, the wounds you have carried alone. They may have known in the depth of their soul that only God could bring the peace and transformation you so desperately needed. But now comes the difficult part. God, in His infinite wisdom and love, responded to their prayer. His answer, though filled with grace, may break your heart. His reply is not the simple, immediate relief you may have been hoping for. God's response reveals a truth that, though hard to hear, is filled with divine purpose. God's answer to their prayer was this: they must walk through the valley before they reach the light. This was not the answer anyone would want to hear, and yet it was the answer that was best for you. It may seem cruel at first to be told that you must walk through darkness, through hardship, before you can see the light. You may have prayed for an immediate change, for God to remove the pain, the struggle, the challenges you are facing. But God's answer is not always one of immediate relief. Sometimes God allows us to walk through the valleys of life so that we can emerge stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected to Him. God's reply to their prayer is not a denial of your pain or your struggles. Instead, it is an acknowledgement that you are walking through a valley that will lead to something greater, a transformation that will shape you into the person God created you to be. The valley is not a place of punishment, but a place of refinement. It is the place where God molds and shapes His children, where He purifies our hearts and teaches us to trust in Him more deeply. You may wonder why God allows you to walk through this valley. Why, after the prayer of someone you love dearly, does it feel as though you are still walking through darkness? Why does it seem as though God is silent and the pain continues? The truth is that God uses the valleys of life to teach us, to refine us, and to bring us closer to Him. God's plan for you is much greater than simply removing your pain or making your life easy. His desire is to shape you into a person who reflects His glory. Without the valleys, there would be no growth. Without the struggle, there would be no transformation. And though the journey through the valley may be difficult, it is not without purpose. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. In your darkest moments, when the valley seems too much to bear, God is walking beside you. He has not abandoned you. He is guiding you through the valley, and He will see you through to the other side. The valley you are in is temporary, but the lessons and the transformation you gain from it will last forever. As you read this message, know that God is not distant. He is not cruel. He has heard your prayers, and He is working in your life in ways you cannot yet see. The valley you are walking through is a place of transformation, a place where God is working to shape you into the person He created you to be. Though this message may break your heart, it is a message of hope. God is with you. He has not forgotten you. His love is greater than your pain, and His grace is sufficient for you. You are never alone in the valley. God is with you, and He will bring you to the light. This is the answer to the last wish made for you. The person who loved you dearly made a prayer that God would intervene in your life. And God's answer is not to take away the struggle, but to walk with you through it, to transform you in ways you cannot yet understand. Trust in God's plan for your life. Trust that He is leading you to a place of healing, peace, and transformation. The valley is not the end. It is just the beginning of a greater journey, one that will lead you to the fullness of God's purpose for your life. God bless you, dear child of God. Hold on to His promises. Trust in His grace, and know that you are deeply loved now and forever. For the past 12 hours, God has been desperately trying to reach your heart. He has been sending you a message that is of deep significance, one that carries sacred weight, a truth that cannot be overlooked or ignored. The message you are about to read may shatter your heart in ways you weren't prepared for, but it will also open the depths of your soul to the healing power of God's grace, revealing the deeper love of Christ that surpasses all understanding. This is not just an ordinary message. This is a message of divine importance, one about life, love, loss, and God's eternal plan for your life. What you are about to encounter may be difficult to hear, but rest assured that it is delivered with love, compassion, and a purpose far greater than anything you could imagine. This message is not one to be taken lightly, nor one to be set aside. It is a revelation about God's will for you, one that will unlock a new understanding of your journey, your pain, and your destiny. There is a prayer from beyond the veil, a prayer from someone who loved you deeply, someone who now resides in the eternal presence of God. Imagine the profound moment when this person, who loved you more than words could ever express, stood before God at the gates of eternity. This person, whether a parent, sibling, spouse, close friend, or mentor, had one final thought, one last prayer to make before they entered the fullness of heaven. In their final moments, their heart was not for themselves, but for you. Their love for you was so immense, so overwhelming, that even as they prepared to leave this world, their thoughts were consumed with your well-being, your soul, and your future. They loved you with a love that reflected Christ's love, unshakable, unconditional, and pure. And so, as their spirit rose to meet the Lord, they made one final request, one desperate prayer to God. Their prayer wasn't for their own comfort or peace, but for your salvation, healing, and divine protection. They prayed that God would intervene in your life, that His hand would guide you through the storms you were facing and the ones yet to come. This prayer was born out of a love so profound, a love that transcends time and space. They knew that there were battles you were fighting that no one else saw. They saw the pain you carried, the silent tears you shed when no one was watching, the struggles you hid behind your smiles. And in their last breath, they prayed for God to intervene, to reach out to you, to heal you where they could not, to protect you when they could no longer stand by your side. Their prayer might have sounded something like this: Lord, I have loved them all my life. Please, in your mercy, do not let them walk this road alone. Reach out to them when I can no longer be there. Hold them when they feel alone. Heal them where I could not, and show them your way to peace and light. Please protect them. Don't let them stray from your love. This was the prayer of a soul that loved you deeply, unconditionally. They saw something in you that you might not have seen in yourself. They saw your potential, your worth, and they knew that only God could give you the peace and direction you so desperately needed. Their final prayer was a plea for God's grace to guide you through the storms, to protect you from the harm that the world and the enemy would try to bring into your life. And here, beloved, is where the message takes a turn, a revelation that may break your heart. God, in His infinite love and wisdom, responded to their prayer. But His reply, though filled with grace, may not be what you were expecting. It may be difficult to hear, but it is filled with divine purpose. God's answer to their last wish was this. God's response was not a simple, immediate solution to the pain and struggles you are facing. It was not a miracle that would take away your suffering in an instant. No, God's reply was deeper, more profound, and more life-changing than that. His reply was that your journey, though painful, is part of a much greater divine plan. You are walking through a valley, a season of hardship, struggle, and sorrow that is necessary for your transformation. This truth may break your heart because you have prayed, pleaded, and cried out for God to remove the pain, to take away the challenges, to make things better. Yet, God's answer is not one of immediate relief. Instead, it is a message of divine purpose, a revelation that the valley you are walking through is not the end of your story, but a necessary part of God's plan for your life. You may wonder, why must I go through this valley? Why must I endure this hardship? Why is my journey so difficult? And these are fair questions. But the truth is that God uses the valleys of life to shape and mold us. It is in the valley that we learn to rely on God more deeply, to trust Him more fully, and to surrender our fears and doubts to Him. It is in the valley that our faith is tested, refined, and strengthened. The valley may feel like a dark and lonely place, a place where your prayers seem to go unanswered, where you feel as though God has forgotten you. But this is not the case. God is with you in the valley. He is walking beside you, even when you cannot see Him or feel His presence. He is using this time to prepare you for something greater, something that will be revealed once you emerge from the valley. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Though the valley is a place of struggle, it is also a place of comfort because God is with you every step of the way. He is guiding you, protecting you, and providing for you even in your darkest moments. His love for you does not fade when things are hard. In fact, it is in the valley that His love shines brightest. Though this message may break your heart, it also carries with it a message of great hope and encouragement. God has a purpose for the valley. The struggle you are enduring is not meaningless. It is shaping you into the person God has created you to be. It is molding your character, strengthening your faith, and preparing you for the future that God has planned for you. Trust that God is with you in the valley. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. And trust that this season of hardship will not last forever. God has promised that joy comes in the morning. Though the night may seem long, the dawn will break, and with it, the light of God's love, grace, and purpose. The valley is not the end of your story. It is a chapter, a necessary one, on your journey toward transformation and healing. Through this valley, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more aligned with God's will for your life. As you walk through this valley, know that you are not alone. The person who loved you dearly, whose soul now rests in heaven has entrusted you to God's care. Their prayer for you is still being answered, though you may feel as though you are walking through darkness. Remember that God is the light that will guide you through it. Take heart, beloved. God's love is greater than your pain. His grace is greater than your struggle, and His purpose is greater than your fears. Trust in His plan for your life, and know that even in the valley, you are being prepared for the great work He has for you. You are loved beyond measure, and God's plans for you are filled with hope, peace, and eternal joy. This is the answer to the last wish made for you, one that will lead you to the light, to healing, and to a future filled with God's divine purpose. Trust in Him, for His love will never fail you.